They used to call me Ghost, not because I disappeared, but because no one ever saw me coming. I wasn't the guy holding the gun or shouting orders. I was the wheelman, the ghost in the driver's seat, the one who made sure we vanished before the cops even laced their boots. Tonight, I'm going to tell you about the job that made me a legend and nearly got me buried in a ditch. We're talking about the biggest armored truck robbery this city had ever seen, a moving fortress hit in broad daylight with traffic jammed and bullets flying. We pulled it off. But what came after? That's where the real story begins. Because in this life, stealing the money is the easy part. Keeping it, surviving it, now that's the real heist. The engine screamed under my grip like a caged animal. We were doing 90 through downtown, weaving between traffic like it was an obstacle course designed by the devil himself. Behind me, Rizzo was bleeding out on the bench seat, clutching a duffel bag stuffed with unmarked bills. The back of the van reeked of gunpowder, rubber, and fear. "Ghost, they're on our ass," Frankie yelled from the passenger seat, peeking through the shattered side mirror. Black and whites, two of them, and a chopper overhead. I didn't respond. I was already calculating. Next light, next turn, alleys, overpasses. This wasn't just a getaway, it was my concerto. And I played it with a foot on the gas and a heart that didn't know how to panic. The plan had been perfect. The execution, messy. It always is. We hit the armored truck at 11:37 a.m., just as it rolled out of the First Citizens Bank on Tremont. 4 guards, 2 drivers, full cash payload, the kind that only moves once a month and pays for a city's silence. We boxed them in with a stolen garbage truck from the front, a taxi in the rear, and a delivery van, ours, from the side. Boom, smoke bomb through the driver's slit, flashbang under the rear wheels. They never had a chance. But what we didn't count on was the patrol unit that just happened to be rolling past. Rookie luck or divine wrath doesn't matter. Shots got fired, guards hit the ground, and the quiet part of the plan went out the window like a tossed ski mask. Now we were in the wind, and time was bleeding out faster than Rizzo. I took a hard right on 4th and slid us between a produce truck and a Honda. The sirens shrieked behind us, louder than a banshee at a funeral. I tapped the brakes just enough to drift the next corner, slamming Frankie against the door. He cursed, but I didn't have time for apologies. Rizzo moaned. "They got me in the leg, gee. I'm leaking like a stuck pig back here." "Shut up and keep pressure on it," Frankie barked, "and keep the bag on your lap." The bag, $2.4 million in non-sequential, non-traceable cash. That was supposed to be our retirement fund. One final job, then the beach, then silence. Instead, we were in the middle of a city-wide manhunt, ducking bullets with every heartbeat. I veered off the main strip into an industrial zone. Warehouses, dumpsters, dead ends. Perfect for getting lost. I knew this city like a second skin. Every alley, every blind turn, every shortcut the city planners never wanted you to find. I spotted a maintenance gate ajar behind a recycling center and gunned the van through. Frankie screamed as we clipped a trash bin and sent it flying into the air. I didn't care. We were ghosts now, and ghosts don't play by the rules. The chopper was still overhead, but the buildings gave us cover. I drove straight into a loading dock and cut the engine. We sat in silence, hearts thumping like war drums. Rizzo groaned. "Did we lose 'em?" I looked at Frankie. He looked at me. I didn't answer, because I knew we might have outrun the sirens for now, but the real heat was just getting started. We waited. Not a word spoken, just the hum of the van cooling down and Rizzo's pained breathing filling the space like smoke. I kept my eyes on the side mirror, watching for movement. Nothing but dust and distant city noise. It felt like the longest 3 minutes of my life. Frankie broke the silence. "We can't stay here. If that bird circles back, we're toast." I nodded and reached under the driver's seat, pulling out a keyring with a fob. "There's a switch car 4 blocks north, parked behind an old textile mill off Kingsley. We go in separate directions on foot. I'll bring the ride around." "You sure you can ditch the van clean?" he asked. "Frankie, you ever know me to leave a mess?" I shot him a look, and for the first time that day he smirked. "All right, I'll drag Riz. You make the run." I got out, slipping into the narrow alley beside the dock. Every step felt like I was walking on glass, expecting sirens to cut through the air or a bullet to kiss the back of my head. But the streets were quiet. I made it to the mill without a shadow trailing me. There it was, a '79 Buick Regal, forest green, plates swapped, engine purring like it just came off the lot. I slid into the driver's seat and popped it into gear. By the time I looped back, Frankie had Rizzo half carried to the curb, both of them drenched in sweat. We loaded him into the back seat, tossed the bag in the trunk, and peeled out. No sirens, no tail, just city streets and the pounding echo of what we'd just done. For a second, just a second, I thought we'd pulled it off. We had rules. Always did. After the job, no calls, no safe houses twice in a week, no girlfriends, no family, no junk. The cash didn't move for 72 hours, period. That gave us time to disappear, let the noise die down, and let the city believe we were already long gone. We holed up in a halfway renovated motel out by the canals, run by a guy who didn't ask questions and liked being paid in cash and silence. Frankie patched up Rizzo, who wouldn't stop whining about how it felt like the bullet was still in there. We split shifts watching the lot, cleaned the Buick, wiped down the van before dumping it off a dock outside town. Everything by the book. But something felt off, like static in the air, the kind of thing you don't hear but feel in your teeth. I'd been in this game too long not to know what it meant. It meant the worst was still on its way. Because heists don't end when the sirens fade. They end when your own crew starts looking at you like a problem. And I could already see it, in Frankie's tight jaw, in Rizzo's shifty eyes, in the way they both stopped calling me Ghost and started calling me Man. Like I was just another guy with a cut of the money. Just another liability. Most people think getaway driving is about speed, about pushing the pedal through the floor and outrunning fate. They're wrong. It's about control, timing, reading the road like it's a chessboard and you're 5 moves ahead of the other guy. The cops, the cameras, the civilians who don't even know they're in your way until it's too late. That's what drew me in. I was 15 when I first hotwired a car. '67 Camaro, cherry red, sitting outside a pool hall on 3rd. I didn't even want to steal it. I just wanted to feel it. The rumble of the engine. The way the world changed when you wrapped your hands around a wheel and decided where to go, and how fast. By 17, I was running backroad races out in Pine Bluff. No cash, just pink slips and pride. You win, you keep the car. You lose, you walk home. I didn't lose, not once. That's how I got the name Ghost. I'd show up in a car you didn't see coming, and I'd be gone before the smoke cleared. But there's no future in street racing, not unless you like hospital beds and broken dreams. That's when I met Sal Books Bianconi, mid-level guy with big ambitions and a love for odds. He saw me race once, watched me thread a CUDA between 2 semis on a 2-lane at 120, and said, "Kid, you ever thought about using that talent to make real money?" I thought he was full of it. Until he took me for a ride, showed me the world behind the curtain, numbers games, loan sharking, muscle for hire, and heists, not the petty smash and grab stuff. We're talking scores, jewels, vaults, trucks loaded with more green than the city budget. I started small, driving the switch car, dropping off burn bags, watching street corners while the crew hit a pawn shop or a backroom poker ring. But Sal saw the way I handled pressure like it wasn't even real. No shakes, no sweat, just calm like the wheel and I were breathing together. By 24, I was behind the wheel for my first real hit, a courier van moving bearer bonds out of Midtown. We made off with 6 figures and no heat. I didn't just drive the getaway car, I choreographed the whole damn escape. Fake construction site, traffic light reroutes, emergency service scanner feeds. It was beautiful. That job changed everything. Word got around. Crews started requesting me by name. Not Ghost, the Ghost. The guy who didn't flinch when the bullets started flying. The one who got you out clean or died trying. But I didn't do it for the rep. I did it because driving was the only time I felt free. The only time my past, my scars, the noise in my head, it all went quiet. Still, freedom ain't cheap. And the more I drove, the more I owed. Favors, loyalty, pieces of myself. Every clean getaway left me a little dirtier inside. And every job brought me closer to the edge of something I couldn't name but felt breathing down my neck every time I closed my eyes. I thought I could outrun it. I was wrong. The crew didn't form overnight. We weren't childhood friends or some family of street kids turned syndicate. We were professionals, thrown together by Sal and desperation. Everyone had a reason to say yes, and none of them were good. Frankie Delgado was the muscle. Ex-golden gloves, a jaw like stone and hands that could fold steel. Used to bounce for a strip club in Jersey until he cracked a city cop's skull with a pool cue. Mob gave him sanctuary. In return, he gave us his fists. Rizzo, real name Vince Rizzoli, was the brains, or so he liked to claim. A busted-down locksmith with a gambling addiction and a gift for blueprints. Could map out a federal building just by looking at the fire exits. Problem was, he talked too much and trusted too little. But he was fast with a drill, and in our line of work, that meant something. Then there was me. The wheel, the escape plan, the contingency for every blown door and mistimed guard rotation. Sal wasn't hands-on. He orchestrated, pulled strings from the back room of a flower shop, always smoking those clove cigarettes like they were laced with prophecy. He fed us jobs, laid the groundwork, and made sure we never got too close to anyone outside the life. Before the big one, the armored truck job, we did 3 smaller hits in 6 months, all clean. A payroll run outside a steel plant, a diamonds by mail operation in Queens, and a nighttime vault extraction that left the city buzzing for weeks. We practiced like we were training for a goddamn Super Bowl. Timed entries, silent comms, heat drills. I even took Rizzo and Frankie to a stretch of abandoned runway upstate so I could train them in fast-load exits and vehicle swaps. See, armored trucks were a different animal, thick steel, armed guards, GPS tracking. But I'd studied their habits for years, knew their shift patterns, lunch breaks, their favorite gas stations. I treated it like a game. Who blinked, who slowed down at yellow lights, which driver smoked too much and needed bathroom breaks every hour. When the job came down from Sal, First Citizens Bank, end-of-month pickup, 2.4 mil on board, I knew it was our Super Bowl. We were ready. I made damn sure of it. But there was more to it than the rush. I wasn't doing this just for the cash. My old man was gone, drank himself into the grave before I could graduate. My ma was stuck in a rent-controlled shoebox, living off bodega scraps and bad TV. She didn't know the kind of man I'd become, thought I was a mechanic working night shifts. I wanted to give her a way out. Quiet house upstate, dog in the yard, a little piece for everything she gave up raising me. So yeah, I told myself it was about the money, the freedom. But deep down it was guilt. Guilt wrapped in speed and asphalt. And it was that guilt that kept me sharp. That kept me behind the wheel even when every part of me screamed to get out. Because once you're in this life, there's only one direction left to go. Fast and forward. The morning of the heist felt like the eye of a storm, calm but not silent. There was a pressure in the air, a kind of gravity that weighed on your bones. We all felt it. Even Frankie, who usually cracked wise to kill tension, kept his mouth shut. We met in the back lot of an old meatpacking plant just before 7 a.m. Sun wasn't even fully up yet. Fog still rolled off the asphalt like ghosts trying to escape the earth. I checked the van first, plates switched, route plotted, fresh coat of primer over the original paint. Then I checked the bag, smoke grenades, zip ties, burner radios, and 2 Glock 17s with filed serials. Frankie loaded the duffels. Rizzo climbed in back, obsessively checking his watch like he could force time to bend if he stared hard enough. I climbed into the driver's seat and sat still for a beat. Eyes closed, breathing slow, that ritual I had, not for luck, but for rhythm. I always believed a clean getaway started with a steady pulse. At 10:38, the armored truck rolled out of First Citizens, just like it had every final Friday of the month. It was a Brinks model, heavy-duty, 2-man cabin, 2 in the rear. Escort detail in another car 2 blocks ahead. We timed it down to the second. I pulled out in front of them just as they hit the construction zone we'd staged 2 days before. Cones, signs, a city permit we borrowed from a municipal printer. The garbage truck rolled out and boxed them in from the front. Rizzo in the delivery van came in from behind. Perfect triangle. No escape. Frankie leapt out first, masked, gloved, armed, fired 2 warning shots into the air to keep the sidewalk rats diving for cover. I popped the side of the van, let the smoke roll in thick and fast. Rizzo jammed the rear doors with a wedge before the guards could even unholster. It was tight, fast, loud. Frankie yanked one of the drivers out through the side door, pistol whipped him to the curb. Rizzo had the back open in under 20 seconds. Inside, duffel after duffel of bundled hundreds and twenties, shrink-wrapped like supermarket ham. He started tossing them out like Santa Claus on a speed run. Then the sirens hit. I don't know if it was the escort car that tipped them, or if some nosy civvy called it in early, but we were exposed, 2 minutes ahead of schedule, 1 foot already in the grave. Frankie shouted, "We're burned! Get us out now!" Rizzo tried grabbing one more bag and caught a bullet in the leg for his greed. One of the guards got off a lucky shot from inside, shattered the van's side panel, missed me by inches. We piled back into the van. I hit the gas and floored it through the construction barricade. Cones went flying. I heard the screech of tires behind us, then the unmistakable thwop 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 of a chopper slicing through the sky. This wasn't a getaway anymore, it was a warpath. We barreled through downtown like a missile with no guidance. The sirens behind us multiplied, 2, then 4, then the whole damn cavalry. I gritted my teeth and tuned it all out. It was just me and the road now. Rizzo was in the back, pale and groaning, clutching his thigh. Blood soaked through his jeans, pooling on the floor. Frankie tore off his jacket and pressed it down, yelling, "Stay with me, you cheap bastard. You ain't bleeding out on my dime." Meanwhile, I was threading the van through morning traffic like a surgeon with a scalpel. Right at 12th, up the ramp to the overpass, then a sudden dive onto the train yard access road. Cops weren't ready for that. I heard one of them crash behind us. Beautiful chaos. The chopper stayed. It always does. Its eye never blinked. But I'd planned for that too. We kept a car stashed behind a hardware store 6 blocks from the train yard. A Buick Regal, old, unremarkable, and registered to a corpse in Michigan. 2 minutes to switch, I barked. Keep that bag sealed. We pulled into the alley just as I heard the first news bulletin crackle over a police scanner. Suspects possibly armed, consider dangerous. Multiple units in pursuit. Frankie dragged Rizzo out while I swapped the plates off the Buick and dumped the burner phones in a drainage grate. I knew we had less than 60 seconds before air units circled back. Every move mattered. Every second had to pay rent. We stuffed Rizzo and the cash into the Buick and drove out like a couple of tired warehouse workers ending a long shift. The sirens faded. The world tilted back to stillness. For a moment, we believed we'd done it. We ditched the van behind an abandoned church, set it on fire, and left no trace but a plume of oily smoke curling into the clouds. Then it was motel rooms, burner phones, split schedules. We went dark. But cracks formed fast. Rizzo started drinking to numb the pain. Wouldn't shut up about how he deserved a bigger cut since he took a bullet. Frankie told him to shut his mouth or he'd finish the job. I played referee, like always. I didn't care who thought what. I just wanted silence, distance, time to move the money and vanish. Then Sal called. We were never supposed to hear from Sal. That was the deal. He set the job, took a finder's fee, and we vanished like ghosts. But here he was, calling a number I never gave him, saying we needed to meet. Urgent, he said, in person, no crew. I met him behind the florist shop 2 nights later. He didn't smoke, didn't smile. You boys stirred up more trouble than you know, he said, eyes locked on mine. That armored truck, it was holding more than just cash, a ledger, names, account numbers. I froze. What names? Important ones, he said, names that pay to stay invisible. That's when I realized the money wasn't the score. We were the bait. And someone, cops, mob, feds, who knows, was about to reel us in. I left that meeting with Sal and felt like a bomb was ticking in my chest. Not fear. I'd dealt with fear. This was something else. Betrayal, maybe. Or the realization that the rules I thought we were playing by didn't mean jack anymore. I got back to the motel just after midnight. Frankie was sitting outside the room, smoking with one hand, holding a pistol in the other. He didn't even look at me when he spoke. Riz is losing it, he said. Won't shut up, keeps talking about running. Mexico. Even mentioned his cousin in Philly who knows a guy. We keep him calm, I said. Another 48 hours, then we break and split. Frankie shook his head. He's already gone in the head. I don't like it. Inside, Rizzo was pacing like a caged animal, a bottle of bourbon clutched in one hand, gauze wrapped around his thigh. You talked to Sal? He asked, eyes jittering like a dope fiend's. I nodded slowly. Yeah, job was bigger than we thought. We hit something hot. How hot? Hot enough that we need to disappear now, I said. You pack your things. Tomorrow night we burn the rest and vanish. New IDs, new lives. Rizzo didn't like that. I saw it in the twitch at the corner of his mouth. He wanted a cut now, wanted to split on his own terms. And worse, he didn't trust me anymore. Neither did Frankie. Next morning, I woke up to find the safe bag, the backup stash we kept under the floorboards, gone. So was Rizzo. Frankie tore the place apart. You believe this? That rat bastard ran? No, I said, scanning the lot outside. He ain't running, he's bargaining. And I was right. That night, a crew of nobodies, tweakers, freelance thugs, hit one of our lockups in South Point. Not just a hit, a message. Burned the place down and left a note. Where's the rest? Rizzo had flipped, not to the cops. Worse, to some mid-level crew looking to move up the food chain. Maybe he promised them our cash. Maybe he promised them us. Sal called again. You need to clean this up, Ghost. Now before the suits get wind. I knew what he meant. The suits didn't knock. They buried you in paperwork before they buried you in the ground. And if they were involved, the kind of guys who move money for kings and politicians, we were already ghosts in the other sense. So I called Frankie, told him to gear up. We're hunting one of our own, I said. You sure? He asked. This ain't like the others. This is personal. Yeah, I said, loading my piece and pulling on my gloves. That's why it's got to be me. The chase that followed wasn't on roads. It was in shadows. Phone intercepts, burner records, bribes to bartenders, whispers in alleys. Rizzo was moving fast, changing motels like socks, paranoid as hell and strapped to the teeth. We finally found him at a rundown motel near the river. He looked half dead already, junked out, bleeding through his bandages. But he still had the look, that desperate glint, like he might pull something crazy just to feel in control again. I told Frankie to wait outside. This one, I had to finish alone. The motel room reeked of sweat, blood, and that metallic stench of fear. Rizzo sat on the edge of the bed, pistol in his lap, half a bottle of bourbon by his side. His eyes were red, not from crying, from not sleeping, from being hunted by people he used to call family. He looked up when I entered, no surprise in his face, just resignation. I knew you'd come, he muttered. You left me no choice. He chuckled, dry and cracked. We were never getting out, you know. Not really. Sal fed us a fairy tale. Doesn't change what you did. He glanced down at the duffel bag at his feet, our backup stash, now reduced to half its weight. I was going to leave, Mexico. Find a beach and disappear. With whose money? I asked, stepping in and closing the door behind me. He looked up at me then, for real. You think I wanted this? You think I planned for this? I took a bullet, Ghost. I was bleeding while you drove us into hell, and all you did afterward was play it cool, like none of it touched you. It did, I said, every damn minute of it. There was a long silence, just the drip of a leaky faucet and the sound of passing cars outside. You bring Frankie? He asked. He's outside. Said if I don't come out in 10, he's coming and shooting. Rizzo gave a bitter smile. That's fair. I walked over slowly, sat across from him. The gun between us sat like a viper waiting to strike. You handed our names to nobodies, Riz. You painted targets on our backs. I thought they'd just want a piece, a taste, he said. Didn't think they'd come burning safe houses and leaving death threats. I miscalculated. You always miscalculate, I said. It's your best skill. He laughed, then winced. The bullet wound in his leg had festered. He was pale, shaking. You gonna do it? He asked, eyes locked on mine. Gonna be the one to put me down? I didn't answer. I just stared at him, the guy who used to carry blueprints folded in his socks, who once saved our ass with a fire alarm trick that even had Frankie impressed. The same guy who now sat before me, broken by greed and fear. He reached slowly for the bottle, then thought better of it. "I didn't want it to end like this," he whispered. "None of us did." I stood, reached into my coat. For a second his hand twitched toward the pistol, but I wasn't reaching for my gun. I tossed a pack of burner passports on the bed. "Use a different name this time," I said, "and don't ever come back." He stared at the passports like they were cursed. "You're letting me go?" "No," I said, "I'm erasing you." I turned and walked out. Frankie was pacing by the car, anxious and ready. "Well?" he asked. "He's gone," I said, "one way or another." He didn't ask more. He knew. We drove off, no words between us, just the sound of the tires on asphalt and the quiet truth settling in our chests. We'd survived the job, but the real war had just begun. 2 weeks after Rizzo vanished, the game changed. Not gradually, not like a tide creeping up on the shore. No, this hit us like a hammer in the dead of night. The first sign was the safe house in Little Creek. Frankie and I had it stocked. Cash, burner phones, papers, IDs, spare clothes, everything. One day it was untouched. Next day, torched to the foundation. Arson team said it was professional. No signs of forced entry. That told us two things. One, someone had access to our internal drop lists. Two, this wasn't street level. We started moving every 12 hours, slept in shifts, ate out of gas stations, and every time a car drove too slow past us or a man lingered at the corner too long, we had a hand on our piece. Then the bodies started showing up. Nico Corkscrew Del Vecchio, the guy who did our plates for the Regal, found face down in a canal, throat slit clean. Gina, the go-between courier who took our bribe money to cops, missing. Her apartment ransacked, her mother screaming on the news. Whoever they weren't making arrests. They were cleaning house. I called Sal, but he didn't answer. No surprise there. Sal always knew when to vanish. Problem was, he took the last string of safety with him. Frankie grew harder, cold. He started sleeping with his piece tucked into his waistband and a hunting knife under his pillow. "We need to hit back," he said one night, pacing in the glow of a motel's busted neon sign. "Find out who's coming for us, take the fight to them." "And what then?" I asked. "You think we shoot our way out of this? You think bullets stop the kind of people we pissed off?" He stared at me for a long second. "Number. But it's better than waiting for them to put one in our heads while we sleep." We argued. For the first time in years, voices raised, fists clenched. The pressure was tearing us apart. Then came the message, slipped under the windshield wiper of the car we thought was clean. No envelope, just a single sheet of paper, folded once, with 4 words typed in all caps. "You have 6 days." That night, I dreamt I was driving again. Only this time, the road had no end. Just miles and miles of blacktop, but no turns, no exits, no destination. The kind of dream that doesn't scare you. It just tells you something's already lost. When I woke, I knew what I had to do. It was time to break the rules. No more waiting, no more safe houses, no more playing defense. I needed to find the source, the real reason this job blew up in our faces. And to do that, I'd have to go back to the one place I swore I'd never return. Back to Sal, back to the beginning. Sal's florist shop looked the same as always. Daisies in the window, bell over the door, the faint scent of rosewater mixed with stale coffee. It was a front, sure, but it was his front. And if there was still a heartbeat in this mess, it would be here. I didn't knock, just walked in and locked the door behind me. The old man was sitting behind the register, sleeves rolled up, trimming the thorns off a bouquet of long-stemmed reds like it was any other day. When he looked up and saw me, there wasn't fear. There wasn't even surprise, just a long, tired sigh. "You made good time," he said. "I always do." He gestured to the stool by the counter. "You hungry?" "I want the truth." Sal dropped the shears, sat back. The light from the overheads cast deep shadows under his eyes that looked older than I remembered, worn down by secrets. "You already know most of it," he said. "You just want to hear it out loud." "Try me." He nodded slowly. The armored truck, it wasn't about the money. That was bait. The real target was the ledger, a black book kept by a fixer named Cal Merrin, worked for suits so rich their names only get spoken in congressional subcommittees, the kind of people who buy countries like you and me buy cigars. And what was in the ledger? I asked. Transactions, blackmail, payoffs. Who moved what money where? To whom? Dates, names, dollar amounts. Some mob, some political, some beyond both. And you didn't think to mention this before? I couldn't, he said, voice low. I didn't even know for sure until 2 days after the hit, when they came looking. Who's they, Sal? He looked up, and for once the mask cracked. I saw fear behind his eyes. Cleaners, not feds, not mob, the other kind. They don't knock, don't ask questions, just erase, records, people, histories. Why use us? I asked. Why not pull a pro crew with federal ties? Because you weren't on any radar, he said. Ghost crew, no wiretaps, no priors that couldn't be scrubbed. You were clean enough to be invisible, until you made noise. And now we're loose ends. He nodded once. I stood, heart pounding. You sold us. No, he said, standing too. I tried to protect you. You think I sent you into this blind on purpose? I gave you the score I thought was just money. They used me, Ghost. And now they're watching both of us. I didn't trust him, but I knew he wasn't lying. Not completely. Sal might have been a manipulator, but he wasn't suicidal. So what now? I asked. He pulled a small key from under the counter and handed it to me. Locker at the train station. Inside's a copy of the ledger. Not the full one, just enough to make them blink. Blackmail? He shook his head. Insurance. I took the key, slid it into my pocket, and left without another word. Out on the street, the world felt thinner. Like the walls were made of tissue paper and someone was always watching from the other side. We had 6 days, now maybe 5, and the only way out was to play dirtier than the devils chasing us. The locker was just where Sal said it would be, Terminal C, southbound rail corridor, 3rd row from the end. I opened it with the key and found a plain manila envelope inside, taped shut, no markings. I didn't open it. Some things you don't want to see unless you have to. Frankie met me at a diner just off the causeway. We sat in a booth by the window, coffee going cold between us, rain smearing the view of the parking lot. I slid the envelope across the table. What's this? Insurance, I said. Sal's play. Frankie stared at it like it was a live wire. You trust it? I don't trust anything anymore, I said, but it's all we've got. He leaned back, chewing on his lip. So what's the move? We make a copy, 2, maybe 3. One goes to a lawyer I know in Montreal. Another gets stashed offshore. The last stays with me. We sit on them. We don't use them unless we have to. And if they find us before then? We give them a taste, let them know we won't go quiet. Frankie chuckled, dry and low. You were always better at the long game. I paid the bill and left a tip big enough to make the waitress remember us. We drove separate cars out of the lot. Another rule. No ties, no patterns. I headed north, no particular destination, just away. That was 3 years ago. I haven't seen Frankie since. We check in twice a year, once on my birthday, once on his kids. Always through burners, always in code. He's living somewhere warm, last I heard. Near a coast, keeps a low profile, works construction. He says he sleeps okay now. I hope it's true. As for me, I bounce. 6 months in Detroit, then over to the Keys, sometimes Canada. I got a new name now. New papers. I still drive, not like before, not for scores. But when the highway stretches out in front of me, I still feel that pulse, that rhythm, like the wheel and I are breathing together. The money? I never touched most of it. Too hot. I burned half, moved some through charities, let the rest sit buried in a lockbox in Nevada I don't plan on digging up. Not unless I need to vanish for real. Sometimes I dream about the heist, the moment the truck doors opened, the gunfire, the weight of the bag in my hands. But mostly I dream about the drive, the escape, the feeling of almost being free. Funny thing about ghosts, people think we're dead, but we're not. We're just out of sight, watching, waiting, driving. Sometimes I wonder how close they ever came to catching me. There've been moments, a knock too hard on a hotel door, a stranger at a gas pump who stares just a little too long, a call that rings once and cuts dead. That kind of static doesn't leave you, it just changes shape. But no black cars, no agents in sunglasses, no sudden disappearances. Yet, I keep the envelope in a safety deposit box under a bank I don't trust in a city I never sleep in. The clerk who opened the account was 15 years too young to know who I was, and 10 years too poor to care. Once a year, I check that box. I open it, look at the paper inside, and remind myself who I was. Who I still am, buried under layers of false names and cold coffee. The world moved on. The news forgot us. Another heist came along. Another scandal. Another body dumped in a river. Time is a master cleaner, scrubs out names and headlines until all that's left is dust. But in certain circles, in whispers, they still talk about the wheelman who vanished. About Ghost, the guy who could thread a stolen van through a 50-yard gap in rush-hour traffic and never hit the brakes. They talk about the crew that pulled off the city's biggest armored job and disappeared like smoke. Legends grow where truth fades. I don't mind. I live small now, no flash, no chrome. An old pickup, a one-room cabin near the border, and a dog that barks at anyone who gets within 100 feet of my porch. I work cash jobs under an alias and sleep with one eye open. And yet, I'm still that guy, still watching the exits, still listening to the wind for sirens that might never come. People ask what freedom costs. I'll tell you. It costs everything. It costs your name, your friends, your roots. The sound of your mother's voice before she passed, wondering why her son never came home. But you know what it gives you? A sunrise no one can take from you. A stretch of open road with no taillights ahead. The silence of not being found. Frankie was right, I was good at the long game. And in the end, the long game is all that's left. No crew, no heat, no legacy. Just the road. And me. And a ghost in the mirror who still knows how to drive like the devil's on his tail.